All right, there we go. So I interrupted you. You said most days, most of your off days, which I can't imagine are a whole lot, you spend time at the range. Is that right?
Yeah, usually once a week. I take one day a week where it's completely off. I don't, no gym, no anything fitness. And so usually on that day of the week, it's, my fiance and I will load up the truck. We'll go to the gun range, and it's like she'll pack lunch, and like she loves to shoot as well. So she has a few of her favorites that she likes to shoot with. And, it's kind of more the merrier at the gun range. I love taking people with me, especially first time shooters, kind of trying to give them a good experience with it.
Right.
But yeah, just a professional dirt shooter. I got a good plethora of steel targets, and that's like my day outside.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you guys
yeah,
do you guys shoot pistols, rifles, both? What do you guys shoot mostly?
so mostly I've been into pistols. That's what I've done for longer, mainly just because the price point of getting into it. So like my first gun that I took to the range consistently, it was like a used Glock 17.
Okay. Yeah.
And then the collection kind of grows from there. But the pistols, they're just usually cheaper to buy. Ammo's cheaper. The steel targets are cheaper, easier to set up, and it's just easier to find a spot to go shoot. In the last year or two, I've tried to get a bit more into like mid-range rifle. I have a couple rifles that are like I have a Barrett 338 Lapua.
Oh yeah.
It was a gift, but it's like finding a spot to go stretch that thing out they are few and far between, trying to find like a mile range or something.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, unless you have land,
I've
like it's difficult to get out to the range and be able to, like you said, to stretch something out and really get that long range rifle going, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. So, the main thing I love about shooting is just like hanging out with friends. Shooting is the part in the background. It's just like the thing that brings everyone
Something to
together.
revolve around.
Exactly. So, just getting a couple trucks at the gun range, everyone drops the tailgate, and, you just got all the ammo buckets lined up. You kind of run everyone through. If you have a new person, you kind of keep an eye on them, show them how to do it properly. But yeah, it's just kind of what the day's revolving around, but it's more just about spending time with people.
Have you been having, like, what does your training schedule look like with this whole coronavirus thing? Like, is it still, you're going 100 miles an hour? Has it changed at all for you?
No. So training during like this whole like pandemic thing for me hasn't changed at all, really. I've always set up my life to, hope for the best, plan for the worst. So like my home gym, it's what I do for a living. So it's basically my home office. I've always wanted to be completely self-sufficient if I have to be. 99% of the times I can go into an affiliate, go into a bigger space that's better. But, just in case there's a shutdown or lockdown, whatever it is, who knows?
Right.
I've wanted the capability of not having to leave my home. So, I've just a regular size, like I think it's called a 2-bay garage, but you're fitting one car in there and some shelves.
Right. Yeah.
I have one of everything. So I don't have to leave my house for training, really. I have a ice bath, sauna in the backyard. We have a massage table here, so my fiance will do body work on me. If things get serious, I don't have to leave my house for like a month.
Which is it's a good position to be in, especially when you want to be competitive and there's outside circumstances. I mean, nobody would have guessed it'd be coronavirus or a global pandemic, but
yeah,
there's things that come up, and it's cool that you create those contingencies so that you can still train and do the things that you want to do.
Yeah, it's like I'm always hoping that things are going to go smoothly, that I can still go to the gym, that I can go to my bodywork person, that I can go, use these other facilities. I don't know why I've always enjoyed being self-sufficient, or, like in terms of like spending money, it's like, no, I save enough money so that like if the world shuts down, or like if I had a job and I got laid off, I can be self-sufficient for like an entire year without changing my lifestyle, anything. And, I've had a lot of people like, well, when are you not going to be able to work for a full year? I'm like, well, I don't know,
right.
But it makes me sleep better at night.
Yeah.
And then this whole thing kind of happened, and it's like, oh, all right, here's the situation that I've been kind of expecting or, planning for the last, 5-6 years. But yeah, so, my training, all the competitions in our season have been postponed, canceled. The one that's still going on, it's in Columbus, Ohio. Mm-hmm. They canceled the in-person competition. They moved it to online. So, you know, they're kind of in the mix of trying to figure out the logistics of that, figuring it out.
What are they going to do? Are they going to send out people to, because obviously there's a quality control component of that wouldn't be there if it was in person.
Yeah. So, you know, like we have one big online competition every year. It's called the Open. It's 5 workouts over 5 weeks. And they release one workout every Thursday night, and you have until Monday to submit a score. And so that, you know, if you have a top score, you need to submit a video. You have someone there that's a judge, but it's like there's still questionable reps that get submitted.
No doubt.
And so that's where like you submit the video after the fact, and then they can go through and adjust your score if needed. So with this competition, I'm not 100% sure how much I'm actually allowed to say. We had to sign an NDA.
Oh yeah.
But if you're familiar with the company Rogue, I mean, anything they do, they do it to the best of anyone's standards. So I think this competition is going to be run a little bit differently than the Open. But I mean, if anyone's going to do it, Rogue is the company that I have full confidence that they're going to just smack it out of the park.
Well, and I think that's what makes CrossFit so different. You know, I think it's definitely more legitimate than it's been probably. I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, than it's been over the past 5 years, but I think that's because it's been taken so seriously, right? Like it's not just like a hobby thing. It's not just a for fun thing. It can be, but
oh yeah.
I mean, it's as stringent as any professional sporting event.
I mean, in the last probably 5 or 6 years, you know, we've started seeing bigger sponsors coming in. So it started out, you know, sponsors that were in the space were trading sponsorships for product, you know, so people were signing shoe deals for a free pair of shoes. So they're exclusive with this brand. And then, you know, once certain people started getting a little more of a following and the sport growing, then money started getting involved. And now we're getting to the point of sponsors that have nothing to do with the sport. You know, we're getting these outside brands coming in, and just like any other industry, once more money starts coming into it, you know, people are taking it more seriously. Like probably 5 years ago, there was probably no athletes doing it as a full-time job.
Really? That recently, just 5 years, huh?
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of them treated it like a full-time job. You know, they would hire someone to manage their affiliate or, you know, something like that. Mm-hmm. But they all had those side businesses that they would run in the off season or just year round. Now, I mean, you're probably getting close to 10 men, 10 women on each side.
Okay.
Where we don't have jobs, we don't sell t-shirts, we don't have an affiliate, we don't do online coaching, nothing. It's just competing.
How do you feel about that component of it? I mean, I don't know how it stacks up compared to other sports, but knowing that things could change, the CrossFit could change altogether, it could go away altogether.
Yeah.
Like, do you feel like, you know, you're talking about self-sufficient earlier.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there's a risk there, and how do you mitigate that risk?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. There's a huge risk. I mean, we're living a career that, you know, if I step off my front stoop awkwardly and twist my ankle.
Right.
Well, if that leads me to missing the qualifier or whatever, I have a sprained ankle, well, my year's done, you know? So there's huge risk. Early on in my career, I was still a full-time college student, and I was making a good living doing CrossFit, but I knew there's a timestamp on this. I never thought I would make enough money in the sport that I could retire off it. So I kept school as a priority. And so my first 2 years competing at the World Championships, I was still a full-time college student. I got
was that what years was that? Was that what, 13, 14, somewhere in there?
2014, 2015.
Okay, 14, 15. All right.
Yeah, so I got 1 degree in mechanical engineering and 1 in business. And before CrossFit, I did Olympic weightlifting, and I lived at the Olympic Training Center. You know, I was an Olympic hopeful. That was my life. That was my dream. School was on the back burner while I was training for that. and there's no money in weightlifting. You're doing it for the love of the game. And then I broke my L5 vertebrae, and I just saw everything like boom. Like I realized like, oh, this could all be over and I'm left with nothing.
Right.
You quickly realize that I have nothing, I've accomplished nothing, and everyone in my life that I thought were going to be there for me, they just tossed you're broken. You're a broken asset. They want nothing to do with you. So it was.
Do weightlifters recover from stuff like that and continue with the sport, or is that something where it's like, yeah, I don't know if you're ever going to be as strong or capable as you once were? I mean, obviously you've gone on to do big things.
I was told by multiple surgeons, like, you will never work out again. The best you'll do is a light jog.
Really?
Yeah. So I got surgery on it. Came back from it. I hit PR numbers. But it was coming back from that. I was motivated by resentment, and that's a great fuel. That fuel burns hot, but it's a very limited supply. It will burn you out.
I was going to say hot and fast, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So I was a little bit over a year from my surgery. And I remember like I had a great competition. I hit a lifelong goal, and I came off the floor and I just looked at my coach. I was like, oh, I think I'm done. And
really?
He was just like, and he wasn't surprised. He just kind of was like, yep. Okay.
What did he see in you he was like, I got it? Like, did he see something mentally or what was he looking at?
I think it was probably just a combination of, I wasn't my usual self in the gym, looking forward to training. Every day was like, oh, I'm going to prove you wrong. And, so, I wasn't doing it because I loved it. I was doing it because I wanted to give a big fuck you to everyone. And, so after that competition, I retired from weightlifting. I moved to Vermont, and I was just a full-time college student. I realized like, okay, like the sports career didn't pan out the way I wanted to. So I was like, all right, I need an education. If I want to survive in this world, if I want to make a living, I need to go to school and offer something to society other than how to clean and jerk.
Do you feel like I mean, there's definitely some motivation and inspiration there for other people, and you do it for yourself too. But yeah, I can see how having another skill set would be valuable at some point in your life for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it was one of those things like, I didn't really know what I wanted to do in life. It was just from the time I was like probably 13, 14, it was Olympics. Like that was all I cared about, all I wanted to do, just competing. And I just saw how quickly it could be taken away.
Right.
And so even once I started making good money in CrossFit, I still wasn't pushing all my chips into the middle of the table with it, because I knew I was like, you can literally have a day in the gym where you hit PRs, you've never been stronger, and then you pull your trap, putting on your gym bag to leave. And it was like, I'm not taking that chance. I'm getting an education so that if I have that security blanket, once I have those degrees, once I make those connections, do whatever, my resume is padded, then I can afford to push all the chips in on CrossFit and take that chance. Because if it doesn't work out, well, fuck it. I'll go get a desk job. I'll be an engineer the rest of my life. Like, they make a great salary, great work environment, but I wanted that security blanket to fall back on before I gambled on myself.
That makes sense. Cause I mean, I talk with a lot of people who, obviously we're talking with high achievers on the podcast, but you hear a lot of the times like, I went all in and burned the boats and everything else. And I'm like, really? Like, did you, or does that just sound cool? Because it does. But I mean, think about the level of risk that you're taking. Yeah. I mean, it's such a good little buzzword to say, like, I burned all the boats and there's no turning back for me. It's like,
So I took a different approach. You hear that a lot, and it's very motivational. It'll light a fire under your ass,
of course,
hearing someone talk like that, and it worked out for him.
Right.
And it's like, if it was true, if it was true, badass. That's awesome. I kind of took a different approach, kind of hoping for the best, planning for the worst. I was making a great living, competing in CrossFit. I had some sponsors that supported me, and, by the end of my college career, I could have afforded to go buy a house and get a car and all this stuff, but I wanted as little risk as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So until fairly recently, I lived in my parents' basement. So didn't have rent, didn't have any responsibility. Like that there was nothing, if I wasn't there to get the mail, my mom would get it. She would sign for packages. I didn't have a utility bill. I didn't have rent, nothing. I drove a $300 Oldsmobile that just like, it was an absolute bucket, but it was, but it was reliable.
Right. Got you where you needed to be.
I had zero luxuries in my life. Like I bought my couch was from like a secondhand store. I lived as close to zero expense as possible. So I could afford to take the risk of making my living competing. I went without for a long, long time. Like, I could have bought a house and done all that, but I was like, no, I don't want, if I get to a competition, I twist my ankle, I don't want to be fretting about where my next mortgage payment's coming from, how I'm paying my health insurance, anything. So it was like, I'm going to live like I'm dirt fucking poor so that if it doesn't work out, nothing lost. I'm not making a financial commitment to anyone that I'm then going to leave them hanging, So
do you think that level of sacrifice is it something that you feel like, oh man, I was born with this, or it's in my genes or genetics, my parents instilled it into me? Like, where does that level of sacrifice come from? Because there's a lot of people who would say, like, I want to be the fittest man on earth, or I want to own a $1 billion business, or whatever, fill in the blank.
Yeah.
And they pay it lip service, but they don't ever do anything about it. Or they do it to the degree where they were like, I'm not really willing to sacrifice that much. And then they throw in the towel.
100%. I see it all the time. These social media warriors of, it's a pretty big red flag when you hear like them talking about how committed they are, this and that. And then every other picture they post is on the beach. And it's like, where the fuck are you getting time to go to the beach?
Right.
Like when every night their dinner is out of the restaurant, and like, it's like, where are you finding the time to do this? I get asked all the time, from people that are like college students hit me up and be like, hey, I heard you were mechanical engineer and competing at the games. How did you do it? And I try to reply like when I have the time and stuff. And, if the person seems like they have good intent, I try to reply and say like, it's very simple. It's not easy, but it's really, really simple. Take everything that isn't contributing to your performance and cut it the fuck out of your life. So whether that's hanging out with friends, like having a girlfriend, having any social life, anything that's not related to benefiting your performance, cut it the fuck out. And then once you do that, you have so much free time during the day. I was a double major, double minor, and I was on the podium twice at the CrossFit Games. And I was carrying like 18, 20 credits a semester.
Really?
And it was like I would leave the house at 6:30 in the morning and I wouldn't get back until 10 p.m. It was super simple. It sucked, but it was super simple. I remember, I couldn't tell you how many nights, like I would leave the gym and I'd have to go straight to the library. And so I'd stop at the gas station, get a pepperoni stick and a gallon of whole chocolate milk. And that was my dinner. It was the gallon of whole chocolate milk, 1,600 calories. And it was like, yeah, it's not enjoyable. It's not like after the first like couple glugs, the enjoyment's over.
It's nasty. Yeah,
exactly. But it was like, I had $3 in my pocket and I had to go to school to keep my grades up. So it was a very easy, simple decision. But it was a lot of work. Sundays, like every weekend, I was the only one in the library. And you go in Monday morning and it's packed. Everyone's trying to get their schoolwork done before class. I'm like, you dum-dums, like you're out partying,
Right.
you were doing those non-essential things that weren't contributing. Yeah, it's instant gratification. You had a great time and I was here. But then like, tests come around, competition rolls around, and I'm the one that's prepared.
Yeah, I'm glad you talk about that because I think, and I'm sure you get this all the time. I'm sure people say, like, oh, it must be nice, to be able to work out every day, all day. It's like,
oh yeah,
dude, like You have no idea, and I don't either. So I don't want to pretend like I do, but no idea the level of commitment and dedication and sacrifice that you must have.
Oh, I can't tell you
still
how,
are, you know?
I can't tell you how many times early on in my career, I had people like, oh, like I want to compete too. I want to do it too. And I'll be like, okay. And, you'd hear them, oh, I spent 6 hours in the gym on Saturday. I'm like, motherfucker, I was here with you. You did 2 workouts and then you hung out a whole bunch. You got a couple good pictures for the gram and like you didn't get shit done. And like I remember one summer, like I worked an internship, and so I was working as an engineer at an aerospace company, and it was like I would get up, do rowing intervals first thing in the morning, get to work, and it was like there was no warm up, there was no cool down. It was like, no, I have 50 minutes until I need to be out the door. You get on that rower and you hammer, get out the door, and then my lunch break. It's like, all right, I have 1 hour, and I would throw on a pair of shorts, go out the back of the facility, and there was a hill, and I would just do hill sprints. Just sprint up, no talking to friends, no nothing. Sprint up, walk back down. Sprint up, walk back down. When I had about 5 minutes left on my lunch break, you scarf down your sandwich, throw your tie back on, and go back in. And then straight from there, straight to the gym. And it was like, all right, I got 2 hours. And it would be like workout, rest 5 minutes, workout, rest 5 minutes. And it's like, if you leave your phone in the car, like you make it a point to like not make eye contact with anyone, and people learn pretty quickly. Like, all right, you're here to get that shit
guy's
done.
not messing around, right?
Exactly. Like, all right, no chit chat, and if people in your life are supporting you, they get it. You know, they'll jump in on workouts with you. They'll support you. But you just cut out all the bullshit in your day, and it's like so much time opens up. And if it's actually what you want, then you make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, I experienced that today. I trained this afternoon before we got on the call, and I was like, okay, I'm going to get this done in an hour. But I lied to myself because it took me an hour and a half. I'm like, why'd that take me an hour and a half? Like, that wasn't an hour and a half session.
Yeah.
But I had my phone in there. I was switching from podcast to this music, and then, I got to check Instagram, and, let me message that guy between, reps.
Yeah.
I'm like, my training didn't take an hour and a half. It probably took 30 minutes. I was just there digging around for an hour and a half.
I mean, that like when people ask me like, how much time do you train in a day? And I'm like, there's 2 different answers. How much time do I spend in the gym? And how much time is like, are my hands on the barbell? Is my ass on the bike? That they're 2 completely different answers.
Totally.
And it's like, yeah, if you break it down, I'm probably actually in the process of working out for 90 minutes, but it's like that stretches into 4 hours of like setting up, tearing down, doing all the bullshit that goes with it. Then you factor in like, all right, meal prep, warming up, cooling down, recovery work when you're done training. Like, and then if you throw a phone into the mix, holy shit, your day's gone.
It's bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I get caught up a lot, whether it's, spending time with my family or being in the gym or whatever. It's like that phone is the biggest temptation for me and the biggest distraction from me accomplishing things. Man, if it's easy because you say, well, but I need it for work, right? Like those are the things that we tell ourselves. Yeah. And so, you get lost in it and make excuses.
I mean, I definitely, like, I'm as guilty as anyone else, like, especially when I'm like not near a competition. And so, training, like just the mood's a little more lax, and it's like, I can run my life off my phone, when it comes to, working with sponsors, friends, family, like I do all my investing, trading on my phone. So it's like, I try not to touch my phone for like the first 30 minutes or hour of the day. But it's like, if I get up at 8, market opens at 8:30, and like, if something drastic's happening, I need to jump on.
Is that something you're really into? Are you picking in stocks and trading and buying? Is that something you're getting to, or have you been doing that for a while?
About a year and a half now, I've done it on my own. Like ever since my first paycheck, I don't spend the money on myself. I just save.
Really?
Once I was out of school and had a little more time, and the biggest thing was talking to someone that I could ask questions about investing.
Yeah.
You know, I was like anyone else, I would get my monthly statement and it was like, well, what the fuck am I looking at?
Right.
You know, like this guy could be taking no commission. He could be taking 50 grand. I have no idea. I don't know where to find this info.
Right.
And so, you know, I have a buddy that started helping me, gave me some books to read. And the biggest thing in every single book was, like, don't pay someone to do your investing for you. Like that 1% compounded over 40 years is the difference between a wealthy retirement and like, I'll make it work. Yeah. So about a year and a half ago, I took it all in under myself, and, you know, it's as complicated or as simple as you want it to be.
Right.
So I err more to the side of keeping it simple. You know, I don't need to double my money in the next 2 years to have a good retirement. You know, I have enough money. I just want to keep up with inflation and, you know, do that. So it's very conservative investing, but it's growing.
Yeah. My background is financial planning. That's why I bring it up.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. I got out of the business completely out of the business about 4 years ago as order demand started to pick up. And I think you're right. You know, like there's a lot of people who want to like ramp up and do as much as they possibly can and double their money. And it's like you said earlier about burning hot, like it burns hot, you know, but it crashes hot too. So
yeah, I mean,
you got to be very careful of that stuff.
I mean, even doing like what I'm doing, and, you know, it's, I have most of my money in, like mutual funds, ETFs, super diversified, like huge portfolios. I have a couple stocks, but they're the ones that, like, if they go to zero, we have a bigger problem on our hands. You know, stuff like Apple and Walmart, you know, very huge conglomerates that it's like, all right, the odds of it going to zero are pretty slim. So I can stay as hands off as I want to. But, you know, I'm just trying to have a comfortable future. I've realized that no amount of money is ever going to make me feel financially secure. You know, I've set that number and passed it 10 times over. And every time it's like, oh, once I get this amount, I'll feel safe. Once I hit this amount, and then you hit it and you're like, not next? Enough.
Yep.
And so it's like, okay, I've come to the conclusion that I'm never going to feel financially secure. So it's just like, all right, just that steady growth, you know, protect all the assets, make sure they don't go to zero.
Right.
But yeah.
If you've realized that that's not what is going to be satisfying and fulfilling to you, have you replaced that? Like, have you spent a lot of time thinking about, okay, well, this is genuinely what makes me feel fulfilled, satisfied in my life? Yeah.
So I was very open about it when I first got into the sport. And I think it got perceived pretty poorly because, you know, like, it's just not, I don't think anyone else in the sport had kind of talked about it. But like, I made it very clear, like, when I first got into the sport, I was in it to make money. Like that was it. You know, my first competition, I couldn't afford the sign up fee. So the owner of my gym paid it, signed me up, and I won $500. And I was like,
wait, what?
Shit.
How does this work now?
Yeah. I was like, 500 cash. And so I literally just started, I remember asking another competitor in the gym, I was like, are there competitions like this all the time? And she was like, yeah, every weekend. So I was like, well, fuck it, let's go. And so, you know, it just slowly built, but it was always financially driven.
Right.
And because that was the milestone that I used. It wasn't, you know, for like that instant feedback of, okay, well, I'm winning money. That means I must be doing well.
That's how you measured it.
Exactly. Now I'm winning more money. I must be doing better. And my original goal when I got into the sport, you know, just hustling these local competitions was I want to make 20 grand. For some reason, I thought that was enough for a down payment on a house. And so that was my goal. I wanted 20 grand for a down payment on a house. And then, you know, 20 grand came and went, and then I went, okay, I want 100 grand. If I have 100 grand, it's a nice security blanket. It's a nest for when I graduate college. Great. That comes and goes. And then you double it again, and the bar keeps moving. And then I always thought chasing that number was my motivation. But then I realized after like the 10th time that I hit the number and still wasn't satisfied, I was like, oh, okay, it's not the money that I'm chasing.
Mm-hmm.
I just love competing. You know, what we do as a sport, you're just constantly problem solving. You know, there's such a wide variety of movements and time domains and different everything. And so, you know, you go to a competition, you have an event that you didn't do so well in. It's all right. Well, why didn't I do well?
Mm-hmm.
You know, was it a strength deficiency? Was it a stimulus deficiency? Was it like I wasn't comfortable with the movements? All right. Well, why wasn't I doing
right?
Exactly. So you just break it down to the tiniest baby steps, and you take this like year-long goal, and you go, okay, what can I do on a daily basis to take a tiny step towards that goal? So, you know, it's always interesting. There's always something to work on. There's always something to get better at. And I've seen, I think I've had some of the feedback of like this huge, what seemed like an unobtainable goal. And then I took those baby steps every single day. And I went from last place to like winning my heat a year later.
Mm-hmm.
So I've gotten a taste of that, those progressions. And now I'm just forever chasing that.
It sounds like that engineering type mind that you're talking about.
100%.
Like
always
solving,
always crunching numbers, problem solving.
How do you stay motivated when, I guess I'm assuming that your growth isn't as exponential as it was when you started.
100%. Yeah.
So how do you continue to be motivated when like the first couple of years you just see these like meteoric rises in the rankings and your ability, and now it's like, okay, well, like you're at the top comparatively.
It kind of depends on what day you catch me on. You know, every day there's a different motivation. And it just depends on what type of mood I'm in. You know, there's a couple that are very frequent, reoccurring. You know, something as simple as I want to have a dope fucking story when I'm old. You know, I don't want to be telling my grandkids about the time I got to level 8 of some video game. No,
right.
Who gives a shit, you know?
Right.
It's like, no, like I want to have a cool story to tell. I've realized that some of the best stories come from shitty times.
Yeah.
You know, all my most miserable times when I was 10 years ago, where I was just hopeless and like, this is never going to end. I look back at them now and I'm like, holy shit, have I got a story for you? Like this one job I had. And so it's like, okay, those terrible times turn into good laughs down the road. And I think another big one was kind of realizing like, once you realize a jaw's not made of glass, it's fucking great, you know? Like for me, for working out, it's like we get to places while we're working out where you think you're dying. You think like my lungs can't take in enough air. My legs just are puffing up. Like they're just everything, all the alarms inside are going off. And then no matter how bad it hurts, 10 minutes later, you feel perfectly fine.
Right.
And so I realized like, okay, in this workout, I can either slow down and get that instant gratification and feel a little bit better right now, or I can keep pushing as hard as I fucking can. 10 minutes after the workout, with either scenario, I'm going to be at the water fountain, getting a drink, joking around with my friends, feeling perfectly fine. But in one situation, I took the instant gratification and I'm not proud of the effort I put in. And in the other, I'm like pounding my chest, just like, fuck yeah. Like I put everything in there and I feel proud of myself. It's that sense of pride that comes from like just a hard day's work. You know, that once you find, I'm trying to think of how to word it. Like once you find that gratification of a hard day's work, you know, you're always chasing it.
Yeah.
You know, I can sit down and watch Netflix on an off day and it's like, I just feel like I'm wasting time. You bust your ass. Like I've worked construction. I've worked out in the oil fields. I've sat behind a desk. Like you put in a hard day's work, sitting down and watching an hour of Netflix has never felt so good. You know,
sure.
you're
you earned
proud
it
of it. Right. Exactly. So yeah, that's just the sense of pride that comes with it, you know, of just busting your ass day in, day out. Yeah, I'd say that's probably my biggest motivation. And also I've got my ass kicked on a big stage with a ton of people watching before. So having that fresh reminder all the time, you know, that'll get your ass in gear.
I wanted to ask you about that because most people, when they fail, you know, their wife sees it or their kids see it or their boss gets mad at them. And you have millions of people who are like, oh yeah, he's a piece of shit, or he's weak, or he's lost his edge. Millions of people saying that. Like, that's got to be a whole different game. I can't even imagine what that's like.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was tough. When I first got plopped into the world, of social media,
Yes.
I mean, that shit will eat your soul if you let it.
No doubt.
Yeah. So, I mean, perfect examples. So for anyone watching that doesn't follow my career, whatever, my first year going to the CrossFit Games, which is like the world championships, I got second place. I came into it with zero expectations. You know, I was doing backflips over getting second place. The following year, I trained like shit all year. I ate like shit. I slept like shit. Like, I just took it for granted. I was like, oh, I'm showing up. I'm going to win, you know? Mm-hmm. And, it literally came down to the last workout. The guy, I think he was in first place going into the final, or I was. It doesn't matter. We were separated by 2 points.
Okay.
And one spot, if you're in the top 3, each spot is 6 points.
Okay. So
it literally came down to, between this other guy and I, whoever wins this last workout wins the whole thing. So I had an incredibly disappointing event. You know, I just flopped, and he had a great event. He had a great weekend. And yeah, you know, people that you thought were your friends are talking shit on social media. Like, unbelievable the things that people say when they're not face to face with you. And sure. But the reaction you have, it's still just as hurtful as if you saw them face to face, except you can't fight them. So I mean, it put me into a dark place for a couple months. I didn't go to the gym. I didn't train. I didn't know if I wanted to continue doing the sport, anything. And it drove me to just sit down with a pen and paper. Like, I was sad, depressed, whatever you want to call it, and just write out, all right, why am I sad? Why am I depressed? Why is this bugging me? And you go through, and once you keep asking why, you get down to your core values of what makes you tick. And it was from that I got like the motivation to go back in. And, you know, I just realized, like, fuck what anyone says. You know, in the grand scheme of things, how many people are there in your life that you actually care about?
Right. Yeah.
A handful, maybe
10, maybe or so. Yeah. Right.
Like, for me, it's like, if that, you know,
I say 10 because I've got 4 kids, you know, so I'm like halfway.
Oh, there you go.
I'm halfway to that mark just with my kids alone.
Yeah, exactly. And so once you realize who is actually important to you, you know, what values actually drive you, you know, all that stuff, it makes things very simple. And on that list was like, what do I care what people on social media think? Like, if you're not there with me in the trenches, don't expect a hug when I'm celebrating. You know, one thing I realized in that time was, never have I seen a negative comment on social media, opened up their profile and thought, wow, this person looks really successful.
I'm really inspired by this individual. Yeah.
Not a single in all the years I'm on there, it still holds true. 99% of the time it's a private account, and the other percent, it's like, wow, this dude is a loser. And, you know, it's, you know, you hear the saying, like, hurt people, you know, nobody that is working on themselves or, you know, working towards anything is taking the time to knock someone else down.
Right.
Never. That's never the case. It's always someone that's down. It's like the, what's the crabs in a pot theory.
Bucket. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It holds true every time. So yeah, you know, once I realized how much that helped me, sitting down with a pen and paper, years ago, that's like a staple in my life now. There are notepads all over this house. There are pens all over, you know, whether it's, you know, just to write down the day's to-do list. Super simple shit. You know, you get that hit of dopamine when you cross it off. It feels good.
Yeah, no doubt.
But then, you know, I just wake up some days and it's like, oh, I'm just like gloomy for some reason. We'll sit down with a pen and paper, break that shit down, you know? And you just put everything back to your values. And once you have a set of rules for your life, you know, making decisions becomes very easy.
What are some of the values that you've identified? And I like what you just said there too, is like here are the rules I live by. So like, what are some of those values and rules that you have?
So right now, mine are very simple. And I'm actually like in the process of kind of working through them, because I set mine up, like late 2015.
Okay.
And so it was right after that loss. And I just told myself, like, this isn't going to be my story. For the next year, every decision I make is going to be based off if it's going to help my performance to win the games. So it was everything you do in life. There's a side that's going to take you away from a better performance, and a side that's a side that's going to take you closer to getting on top of the podium. And so for an entire year, like I had to say no to some stuff that I really wanted to do, you know, like, you know, my best friend's bachelor party. And I was like, nope, can't go. I'm sorry. You know, moving out of my parents' house, I was like, nope, I have a home gym set up here. I have zero responsibilities here. I can dedicate all my time and energy if I live here to training instead of having to worry about rent or whatever it was. And so I went from losing the games to, after a full year of training like that, I won the games by the largest margin of victory ever.
And that was 2016, right?
Yeah. So that was 2016 was my first year winning it. And it was after 2016, I went, oh shit. Okay. I like what that year produced. Let's do it again.
Yeah.
Let's do it again. And so, you know, I've won the games 4 times in a row now. And I never thought my CrossFit career would last this long. I didn't know that it would turn into a full-time gig. And so now it's like, all right, well, you know, I have a fiance now. We have our own house, like all this stuff. So now it's like, okay, well, I need to start shifting some stuff, because right now my life is incredibly selfish. It's like, we don't travel unless it's for like my sponsorships or competition, anything like that. You know, like Sam, my fiance wants kids. And for years now I've been like, nope, no kids. Like, not like, if there's a chance that it's going to interrupt my sleep, not happening, you know? So we're getting to the point in my career now where it's like, okay, I'm not just competing for myself. You know, there's other people in my life that I don't want to be a total selfish person for. So, you know, kind of going through and reevaluating those. But I've had a couple people in my life that, you know, I've had these conversations with, and, you know, even like finances, you know, talking to a buddy that very well accomplished in his place of business. And, you know, I'm kind of asking him, like, what are your rules? What, you know, he has all his tiers of like family first, business second, like all these things. And he's like, I take 15% of my income and I spend it on luxuries or just like non-essentials that are
whatever,
just a smile, you know, whether it's family vacations or like buying a boat for the family, all that stuff. And I remember he asked me, he was like, well, how much do you spend on these like perishables? I was like, none. Like I spend zero, you know. It's because for me, it's like, I'm competing. I want the best performance, and I'm building this nest egg, because I thought I would still have to go get a 9-to-5 job after my CrossFit career. So I was like, I'm going to go without today so I can have more tomorrow. That when I enter into the job field, I can, you know, maybe not have a mortgage, or, you know, I don't have student loans, whatever it is, I can start a leg up on the rest of the norm. But so all these situations have changed. Like, no, I'm never sitting behind a desk. I'm not getting a 9-to-5, you know, whatever it is. So I'm in the process of kind of going through and trying to figure out the values and the rules to live by. But like for me, they are pretty simple. You know, I don't like extravagant luxuries. You know, I've realized that I never want to drive a Lamborghini or a Ferrari. You know, I've done that. It's just not for me. You know, I like having just a truck and a motorcycle and I'm good. You know, I never want the 4,000 square foot house or 10,000 square foot house. That's not for me. I've spent time in them. Like my house right now, it's like 2,200 and it's way too fucking big. I want smaller, you know, it's living by like, there's all these external signs of success that other people set. And, you know, you can fall into that trap so easy, but it's like, no, that's not what turns my crank.
Well, I think that goes back to what you said first too, of like self-sufficiency and being reliant upon only you. Is like, we think that these extravagant things, the cars, the house, the whatever, is what is freeing. But man, I think there's just as many chains that come with that stuff as anything else, probably more so with that stuff. And you free yourself from that
beautiful
burden.
headache.
You don't have it. Yeah.
Beautiful headache.
Yeah. Good point. That's a great way to put it.
Now I do have friends that, you know, their lives revolve around their cars. You know, they own automotive shops, they're mechanics, whatever it is. And that's what they geek out over.
Yeah.
And it's like, you do you. Like I've had friends that have $100,000 cars and their monthly rent for like a single bedroom apartment's $500. And like, they could not be happier. And it's like, that's fucking awesome. You found your thing, go do it.
Right.
For me, like I couldn't care like of, you know, if I have a sports car in the driveway, like that's not my thing.
Yeah. I imagine your rules have to change too as you become more well-known, more recognized, because I imagine the demands for your time and your attention and energy grow. And so having those boundaries in place is probably even more crucial than it was 5 years ago.
Yeah. So I actually had a really interesting, last month I had some serious talks with a friend of mine, and he does very well for himself. And, you know, kind of talking about, you know, if you're always chasing money, then, you know, you can get lost in it. You know, you can sell your soul and make that money, but what's it for? You know, if you're on the road doing these gigs, doing these shows, competition, whatever it is, well, then you're never going to enjoy the life that you built. And you know, I fell into that trap big time. If there was a competition, even if I was in my like off season, if there's a competition for, you know, 10 grand, 20 grand, you know, we've had competitions in the off season that are up to like 100, and it's like 100 grand. Like there's not much.
That's a big.
There's not much I won't do for 3 days to have the chance at winning 100. So, you know, it was just always like, I haven't been on a actual vacation in years. It was just always chasing. And so like talking to my buddy, he takes, I think it was like from December to April off the grid.
Really?
And I was like off, like no matter what. And he's like, no matter what. And he said, he's like, I got offers to do this show, and it was like $500,000 to do the show. And he's like, nope, February, not doing it.
Wow.
And I'm like, how can you say no to that? And he's like, dude, he's like, I hit my number, like in terms of like what he has in the savings account. Right. And he's like, yeah, would $500,000 be awesome? Fuck yeah. But it's not worth my happiness, my peace of mind. Otherwise, what am I doing this for? I do it because I love it. So, you know, having that put a big realization in my head of like, oh man, I need to start doing some stuff for me. You know, I hit my number. I'm good. I'm financially good. So now it's like, all right, well, now I need to start actually enjoying this, you know, doing some stuff for me, being better for the people around me rather than just more money, right. You know,
I had a mentor. He used to say that he called it FU money, that he had enough money set aside.
$2.5 million. You buy a small house with 25-year shingles. You buy a cheap piece of shit car and you say, fuck you.
Yep, exactly. So he was all about that. And I bought into that theory. And man, I tell you, it's powerful because then you're not at the mercy of having to do things you don't want to. You're not at the mercy of other people's expectations of you. You're not, and look, I've done things where I'm like, this sucks. I don't want to be doing this, but you already committed to doing it, or there's some money involved and you're just miserable. Man, I just don't want to live like that at all.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what that's what I've chased for years of, I thought money, I don't want to say like I thought money could buy happiness.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought money would make everything better. But now what I've realized is that money gives you the option of freedom. You don't have to you don't have to work for a shitty boss. You don't have to, you have the freedom to do what you want.
Right.
And, for me, it's so easy. Like when you're broke saying like, oh, I don't want that big house.
Mm-hmm. But
now like you have a bank full and you're like, no, like I choose to live this simple life.
Yeah.
And that's the boat that I finally put myself in of like, I know I'll work until the day I die. I do not do well with idle hands. I hate not having a project on the go. But now I get to choose what project I get to work on. I don't have to go work the minimum wage job and listen and get slapped around,
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, I have the freedom to go do whatever I want. If a project looks interesting, then I can jump in with both feet. But it's not dependent on a paycheck. And especially for me right now, like, I still work with sponsors. I have, an amazing group of people around me that help. And for me, it helps me because I don't have to sign with the new sponsor for the paycheck.
Right.
Whereas
you can
before,
make a good choice about it.
Exactly. Like now I'm in a spot where I can afford to only promote a product that I believe in, that I would buy myself. That was one thing that was pretty changing a couple of years ago was I heard, I forget what book it was in, but it was like Rules of a Salesman. And it was like, don't sell a product that you would not buy yourself. And now when I'm telling someone about like, oh, I use a Theragun, and it's like, yeah, I use it every day. If I wasn't sponsored by them, I would still be using it every single day. So I feel good about sharing this information with other people. I don't feel like I'm trying to scam someone into buying my shit.
Well, and you're just living in integrity too. I mean, and you got to consider like, where else does that spill over? Whether you're in integrity or you're out of integrity, it's spilling over into other facets of your life.
How you do anything is how you do everything.
Right.
And it's like I don't lie. That's just one thing that, I realized probably too late in life that, you sleep better. Like a clean conscience is the best way to sleep at night. If you say something, mean it. And then you feel good about it. It's like if someone doesn't agree with you, you don't get upset about it.
Right.
Usually when someone calls you out on something, you get super defensive because it wasn't the truth. Or you weren't being completely honest somewhere. Or, like it wasn't like lining up with your morals. You did something out of character and now you're being defensive about it. That was one thing that like, yeah, it sucks. Like if you fucked up and you have to tell someone like, hey man, I fucked up, instead of passing it off to like the rookie or something. It sucks in the moment, but damn, do you feel better down the road?
Yeah.
And it sounds so
and you
corny.
Won't do it again because you
Exactly. It sounds so corny of just like, yeah, I don't lie. That's just something I don't do. And it's like, yeah, everyone says that, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. But
clean
like
conscience
go back to that rule of life. Yeah. That rule of life, right? How do you deal with, because again, I'm going back like, okay, so go back 4 years. Nobody knows you, right? 4 or 5 years. Nobody knows you. There's no expectation of you. Like I know you come from a competitive background. Your parents were Olympians, weren't they?
Yeah. My parents were Paris figure skaters. They went to the 76 Olympics.
I didn't know that until I just started, just getting prepared for this conversation. Yeah. I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. A lot of this drive probably comes from that. So you probably had a whole.
So I actually about that, nothing. I've never seen them skate.
Really?
Like if like we had a field trip when in like third grade, they would put on their skates and be chaperones, but I never saw them compete. I never saw them do anything in the figure skating world.
Interesting.
Yeah. They finished up their careers and they were just like, okay, that chapter of our life is done. My mom went to medical school. My dad was a stay-at-home dad my whole life. Yeah, you know,
that's interesting. I would never, a lot of it came like directly from you seeing that or being involved in that to some capacity. That's interesting.
Nothing. You know, they never required us to do sports. The rule was we had to do something after school. So whether it be art, music, sport, something,
whatever.
Like we weren't allowed to come home and just sit on the couch.
Right.
And the only other rule was that if we signed up for something, we had to fulfill our commitment. So, you know, like I know my brother and I, we both tried gymnastics, and it was like the day I came home, I was like, Daddy, I don't like gymnastics. I don't want to go. He was like, okay, well, you signed up,
finish up the season
for the rest of the month or whatever. You have to finish the month. And when you're there, like you have to give it your all. You know, same thing with soccer, t-ball. And it was just like the day we said, like, I don't want to do this anymore. They're like, okay, like finish out your commitment and then we'll try in the next thing. So, you know, I did band, I did pottery when I was young, soccer, t-ball, all these different things. And it was just, it didn't interest me. And so moved on. You know, I ended up in the sports world. You know, I played football. I did weightlifting all through high school. My brother was into like theater, band, all that stuff, you know, completely unrelated to anything my parents had done or anything that was of their interests, but super, super supportive. They were there for everything, every band concert, every game, everything. I think the traits I got from my parents were, my mom is probably the hardest worker I've ever seen. Like to a fault, was just worked her ass off. You know, even when it wasn't, you know, she wasn't getting paid for the hours, every Saturday she's at the dining room table and had all the paperwork out. She's doing notes and calls and it was just like the job wasn't done until the job is done. And yeah, she didn't enjoy working on the weekends, but if she had to, she did. And then from my dad was the performer side, you know, if there were people watching, like he always talked about when he skated, even if there was just the janitor in the stands, he would perform.
He could turn it on like that.
Yeah, he could turn it on. He was a competitor. You know, he loved the competition, hated training. My mom was the one that put the work in when no one was looking. And my dad was the performer. So luckily, I think I got the best of both worlds there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you got to have, I mean, obviously the training is important, but I think you have to have that performance side in that you got to have the competitive edge, and especially in like a socially driven entertainment type environment that we are in this world, like you have to be able to show that off.
Yeah, people are sitting and their eyes are on you.
Right.
You know, I've trained with people that I've said like that person could be world champion, but they crack when people are watching. You know, like I've seen it all the time. Like I've trained with people. I'm like, how the fuck are you not beating me when it comes to competition? And then whatever it is, you know, they get frazzled by the ref or the competitors next to them or just people watching.
Right.
And they just shut down. Me, on the other hand, like all my times get faster
when other people see you, when you're around.
Just in competition, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing that variable? I was going to say simple variable. I don't think it's simple or small, but that variable, like I even think it in my context. I mean, obviously I'm not performing to that degree the way that you are, but I was out running this afternoon and I noticed I was running because I was tracking it. I was running a little bit slower than I did 3 days ago. Well, 3 days ago I was with my son. And I was like, even just my oldest son watching me and being there, I was pushing just a little bit harder. That variable changed it. So interesting to me. Nothing else changed. That was the only thing that changed. Maybe I got some more sleep that day. I don't know, but nothing really significant changed.
Yeah. I mean, it's some people just perform differently under different circumstances. I know for me, like if some people, and it's how you train it too. You know, if you know you don't do well, like for me, the one lift that we have to perform a lot, you know, it's one of the 2 Olympic lifts, is the snatch.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very technical, super, super little bit of room for error.
Right.
You know, the barbell goes,
yeah,
the bar goes right from the ground straight to overhead. Your hands are super wide. And it's like, if that bar's off by a 1/4 inch, you're missing a lift.
It'll go forward or something. Yeah.
And I realized that when someone is in front of me, I have a very hard time performing a lift. You know, it just throws me off. I don't know what it changes, but it changes something. And now, so I've trained with people that have the same issue. And so now anytime that they're lifting, they lift facing the wall. They lift where no one can walk in front of them. They only lift when no one else is in the gym so that they can hit their lifts. Me, I went, well, I'm not good at snatching when someone's watching me. So I bring someone into training with me, and I say, you sit right there, make eye contact with me. You're sitting 2 feet in front of me. We're making eye contact through the entire lift. I've had people come in with like kettlebells, and it's like, in competition, people got cowbells, and people are cheering, and there's no rule on like an Olympic weightlifting meet. It's like proper etiquette for it to be silent,
like
when
golf,
the person
right?
gets
you got to be quiet and everything else. Yeah.
Well, I mean, in that situation, if someone decides to blow an air horn right at the critical moment, your referee isn't like, okay, yeah, you get to do that over. Like that person was a jerk. No, it's like, nope, that person fucked you up. That means you fucked up.
Yeah.
So I practice that. You know, I put someone in front of me to try to throw me off. I give someone a noise making device to try to throw me off, so I can practice that. You know, you hope for the best, plan for the worst. And so I think it's just a lot of strategy of how people are implementing these weaknesses into their training.
Right. Yeah, I like that. That actually ties into something I was going to ask earlier about dealing with, and I think we kind of went off on a tangent a little bit, which is fine. It was a good tangent to go on. But internal pressure, which it seems like you place a lot of that on yourself. Like, I'm internally motivated. I want to succeed. I want to compete. How do you deal with the increasing external pressure? Because 4 years ago, nobody knows who you are. It's all on you. Yeah. Now, everybody knows who you are. And if you don't perform, it's like, well, what the hell? Like, there's just so much more expectation. How do you deal with that?
So, I mean, it's so glaringly obvious. Like, every comment, there's no comment on like social media or any write-ups of like, who's going to win the games this year. It's always, who's going to beat Fraser.
Right.
And it's like, why is that the headline? You know, it's not like I'm coming in at an advantage. It's not like we accumulate points throughout the season and I'm coming in with a huge lead, anything. It doesn't matter how high you qualified going into the competition. We all start
at zero
on a blank slate. So we're all equals. I'm like, why the fuck are people looking at me for? Like, like who's going to beat that guy? You know?
Right.
Why can't that be the headline?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I think it's just something that comes with time, comes with practice, just like anything else. Like if you're born with the ability to just not listen or not care what other people are saying, like that's a gift.
Right. Yeah.
But you know, for me, it was one of those things that I had to consciously set up a rule in my life of, okay, these are the people that I care about their opinion. Everyone else, like, who gives a shit? So, you know, like, and especially when the chatter starts getting louder and louder, when you get closer and closer to a competition, you know, I'll delete social media off my phone.
Really?
Just like, it's not important, you know, like in the off season, I enjoy social media. I stay in contact with a lot of friends. I get to show off projects I'm working on or whatever it is.
Well, just even your responsiveness with getting with me, I was like, I'll just shoot him and you got back. Yeah. Like, oh, I didn't actually expect that we'd connect like that, but cool.
Yeah. So, you know, it's opportunities like this. I have a handful of friends that they'll be lifelong friends that I've met off Instagram, you know? Yeah, I mean, it's just like anything else. It's a practice trait.
Right.
You know, you realize that, all right, who gives a shit what that person thinks? Who gives a shit what that person says? And, you know, you start realizing that no matter what you do, someone's going to try to tear you down.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've posted stuff that it's like, I'm not claiming anything. I'm not saying like this is a good product, bad product, nothing. Like, I'm not saying this is the right way to do it. I'm not saying that's the wrong way to do it. I just said like having a nice picnic with my girlfriend, you know, and there, mark my words, there will be someone that's like, you're a piece of shit. Picnics are dumb.
Right.
And it's like, how are you upset at a picnic?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, and then on top of it, it's like success is the best revenge. You know, I found a board that said that. I hung it in my gym and I fucking love that. You know, I've had so many people blatantly go out of their way to try to knock me down and ruin my career. And you just kind of, okay,
you're like,
good.
Bring it on.
In 2 years time, you're going to talk about the time that you knew me, you know? And it's just like, I'm going to make myself so fucking successful and so dominant that it's just like it's the biggest fuck you that I can give.
Yeah.
Is giving someone, making it blatantly aware that you mean so little to me that my career didn't skip a beat by you trying to tear me down.
Yeah.
And it's like some of the stuff that people have done, I mean, in the moment, yeah, it did tear me down. It hurt a lot.
Of course, man.
And then, but you look a couple, like, you know, once you pick yourself up, or, you know, your significant other picks you up and it's like, tells you it's okay, and you get back to work. Oh, there's no better feeling. There's no better fuck you than just crushing.
I hear a little bit of like chip on your shoulder, not to the degree that it's like unhealthy or anything, but like I hear that a little bit in this conversation, and I've heard that with a lot of people. Do you agree? Well, I don't know. Maybe you're disagreeing with me here. The way that you're.
So maybe in some ways, I really try not to, because, you know, resentment is a hot burning fuel that short-lived. Right. What I really strive for is to hear that stuff or see that stuff that someone trying to be negative or just whatever, you know, they're just saying their part, and just literally pay it no mind and just ignore it and just keep chugging. And, you know, I look at the phrase like success is the best revenge. I've posted that before, and people are like, well, isn't like just brushing it off the best revenge? And it's like, no, you're missing the point.
Yeah, exactly.
It's giving them no attention and just, I have my goals and I'm going to keep working towards my goals. You know, yeah, shit gets in the way and it's like, okay, like that's a situation that sucks, but I can't change it. So how do I approach it now?
Yeah. That's that serenity prayer, right? You got that tattooed on your arm, don't you?
Yeah,
the serenity prayer tattooed on your arm.
Yep. Oh yeah.
That's what you're talking about now.
Yeah. That's a common phrase. It gets said in my head multiple times a day.
Is that right? Is that's how you calm yourself down? Or center yourself, maybe is a better way to say it. I don't know.
I mean, a lot of times I use it to hype myself up.
Is that right?
You know, something comes up in the day where it's like, it's not going to be enjoyable, or, you know, things aren't going as planned, or whatever it is. And it's like, okay, well, what do I have control over? All right. I have control over the effort that I put into this. So, you know, like any workout, you know, I see workouts every day that I'm like, this is going to suck. This is going to hurt. And I realized, like, all right, I don't have control over that. You know, I don't have control over the movements that came up. I don't have control over the people I'm competing against. I have control over the effort that I put in. I have control over if I listen to the pain that my body's screaming at me. And like, what I have control over is how proud I am of myself at the end of the day. So, you know, the serenity prayer helps me through some tough times of, you know, when things are seeming hopeless, and, you know, it kind of puts you at ease. And then other times when you're getting ready to tackle a big task, it makes you focus on, all right, what are the things I have control over?
Right.
And, you know, how am I going to attack this to the best of my abilities?
Right.
And so it gives you that thing to focus on, so that even when there's like a video arcade going on in your peripheral, it's like, nope, this is the task I'm focused on. fuck everything else. I'm doing this.
It's cool, man. I dig it. Well, hey, Matt, I want to be respectful of your time and your day off. I want to let you get to your things that you've got to take care of. I do want to ask you a couple of questions. The first one, I told you a little bit about it, is what does it mean to be a man?
Oh man, I
told you I was going to circle back to this one.
Yeah. I've been thinking about it this whole time. I think there's a lot of aspects to it. You know, like when I think of like, what does it mean to be a man? You know, you ask a million people, you're going to get a million different definitions. No I think when I'm asked, what does it mean to man? What does it mean to be a man? I look at, how do I want to be seen? And, you know, there's so many different aspects to it. I think a big one is being consistent. You know, you're consistent in your values, you're consistent in your personality, you're consistent in your reactions to different situations. Like when I want all of my friends to know, if they say a joke, they know my sense of humor. It doesn't change from day to day based on my mood. You know, when they ask me for a favor, it's not one day I'm going to drop everything and show up and be the best friend. And then another day be like, all right, man, yeah, just throw me $20 for gas and I'll do it. You know,
right.
Being consistent, being loyal, you know, like when I look at myself, I want to be someone that I want to be friends with. So I try to project those values that I have back onto myself, you know? Yeah, I think it's, you know, just even keeled, you know, not flying off the handle, you know, just being good to the people that are good to you, or supporting the people that are in your life. Yeah, I think the big one is being consistent. You have your set of values and you stick to them.
I like it, man. I dig it for sure. Well, cool. Well, how do we connect with you for like the few people who maybe aren't already connected or know where to find you? Where do they go to connect?
Yeah. I mean, Facebook page, Twitter, I have those, but you know, the one that I maintain and, you know, watch closely is my Instagram. It's Matthew Fraz, Matthew with 1 T, Fras. But yeah, I mean, there's lots of YouTube videos, you know, most of my competitions are streamed online on YouTube. So
everything is out there, isn't it?
Yeah.
All the world to see, for better or worse, it's all out there.
Yeah. Yeah. A couple documentaries on Netflix, the whole Fittest series. The newest one that just came out, it's on iTunes and Amazon. I'm sure it'll be coming to Netflix at some point, but
yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's a fun one of last year's games.
We're going to sync everything up so the guys won't know where to go. But hey, man, I appreciate you. I know your time is valuable. You get a lot of demands and calls for it. So I really appreciate you taking some time with us today. I've been inspired over the past several years by watching what you do, and it's a real honor to have a conversation with you, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you asking me to come on. You know, this is, you know, most of the stuff I do is directly CrossFit related.
Yeah, of course,
so
right.
This is a nice change of pace, good and great conversation. I really hope I didn't ramble too much, but
no, man, it was a great conversation, and I know the guys that are listening right now are just going to get a ton of value from what you share.
True. So one thing I want to ask is what's your definition of a man?
Yeah, that's a question I get occasionally, and I've thought a lot about it, and I have the luxury of having heard, you know, hundreds of men at this point.
Yeah.
Tell me, but ultimately, I believe to be a man means that you're capable and proficient of protecting yourself and your loved ones, providing for those people, and leading yourself and others well.
I like it.
It's refined over years of it would be like, you know, it'd be like you trying to teach me the perfect form on a snatch. You know, you're like, what's the problem? You just do it. You know, it's like, well, yeah, you've also done it 10,000 times, right?
Yeah, so exactly.
It's the same concept.
That's awesome.
All right, brother. Well, I appreciate you, and looking forward to staying connected and then watching your journey over the next several years as well.
Absolutely. Thanks, man.